quickly move to the next thing on our agenda, and it's such an honor to bring to the stage our keynote speaker for today. I'll quickly read his profile. I'll mention his name and read his profile. His name is, and I've introduced him before, Ademola Adeoye. He is the sales director for Flour Mills, Nigeria. Ademola is a seasoned commercial leader with over 2 decades of impressive track record across several FMCG multinationals in East and West Africa. A proven people's manager with unique capability to simplify complex commercial challenges and rally troops. His biggest asset is people. What a rare combination. Beautiful. He joined Guinness Nigeria PLC as a sales representative in 2004 and rose to become a sales director in 9 years with international assignment to Uganda Limited, a Diageo company, as the sales director in charge of Uganda, South Sudan, Rwanda, Burundi. He led the company's profitability, volume, and market share turnaround after 3 years of consistent decline across all parameters. His design and execution of a world-class RCC repositioned the business as the second most profitable Diageo business in East Africa. Ademola left Diageo in 2018 and had a cameo appearance with Suntory Beverages, formerly known as GSK, as the country's sales director before joining Flour Mills Nigeria PLC, where he has since reshaped the group's 500 billion consumer goods business. His entrepreneurial spirit and charismatic nature has endeared him to many as a commercial leader and an icon in FMCG industry, having impacted hundreds of successful mentees who have gone to become leaders in their own right. A 1998 marketing graduate of the Federal Polytechnic Laro and an alumni of the prestigious Yale University, Ademola is married with children and also a die-hard Arsenal fan who never made it to the profession. Please join me to welcome Mr. Ademola Adeoye.
I was half across the world when Kenny called me and legislated I have to be here today. And when Kenny calls, you come running. It's taught me a lot of good things in my life and a few bad things. And I won't dwell on the bad ones, I'll talk about the good one. I spoke with Godson and I kind of told him that what he's doing today is a national service to the commercial space. Having lived within this space over the last 22 years, we were comparing notes with a few of my colleagues in here. Across the room are people we started together who are some of the last generation of great salesmen who understand how to do what we currently are doing here today. I spoke with Godson and I told him clearly, that when the gentleman was speaking much earlier, I talked about people, processes, and systems. And in comparing notes, we were talking about people have lived within this space over the last 22 years. And all of us were unanimous in our views of the fact that just like Arsenal trying to buy a standing top 9 striker in the January transfer window, and we had 3 recommendations, Victor Osimhen, Ivan Toney, and I told him clearly, and the likes of Erling Haaland. And someone humorously said the top 9 strikers are endangered species that are going out of fashion, and that's the truth. The same way, I bring that down to people, and clearly of the opinion, and jointly aligned by people around me, that the artist is skill set, and the people with the right competence to get the commercial space into the next level as far as this nation is concerned. It's a strongly endangered space. What we have all over the place has been title holders, people who haven't even fully understand or come to terms with the fast evolving business environment in which they operate. And it's a worry for everyone. And that's why I solely appreciate the great job that Cotton and the team are doing in here in ensuring that we get into a comfortable space as far as managing our RTC is concerned across different parts of the country. Now, if you look at the presentation, he told me I have 30 minutes to do this. I don't know how you bring a salesman and ask him to speak for 30 minutes. The subject is speak for 33 minutes. I read Psalm 33 before I left home, and I know the Lord will help me to do that within the right time frame. When you look all around you, everywhere in the world, all you see when you look at the macros are tough, challenging, business environment, to America, Canada, Germany to Ghana, Ghana to Nigeria. Whatever you see out there is not peculiar to Nigeria alone. It's a global, fast-evolving macroeconomic indices, and every organization that operates within every region are submissive to the governance of the macroeconomic indices that shape the environment within their business. Three choices are available. You fight, raise your hand up in sweet surrender, and run away, flee, or you choose to freeze and just simply say, I ain't gonna do anything, I'll just stay here and die. Whatever you see. When I look at some of us who's gone through about 5 or 6 iterations of route to market, route to consumer, rethinking and re-engineering over the last few years, and I will choose not to over-intellectualize this session, not go into intellectual gymnastics and start saying technical languages, but I'll try to bring it up in the simplest way that I could, based on some of the experiences that we've had within the industry. I guess there were 5 phases that each organization has gone through, or that the commercial space has gone through in Nigeria. Some of those spaces I wasn't even there to when I was in primary school when those happened. And I understood at some point, across most of the organization, you only needed to rock up to the doors of the organization and buy allocation papers, and then you sold those allocation papers, and then you made good money. There were no RTC in those days. There were no data guiding or directing the businesses. In the good old days, and someone like Drew Otoye would understand this in the room today, is the RTC manager for Diageo. And in those days, we understood people would, the salesmen were like think gods. So they would sit in hotels, and then the distributors would queue up, getting to them, and then they sat like kings, and then the distributor would hear you walk in, and they say, okay, I got allocation paper for 200 cartons. I mean, the rules were so clear. You had to sell 200 cartons. You sold beyond 200 cartons, you were buried or fired. 200 cartons were issued to you at 10 naira. You had liberty to sell at any price. Demand outstripped supplies in those days. And the dealers would queue up, and then I had an instance where he said the dealer was making, I said, who is that dealer making? Come on, kneel down here. And then the dealer knelt and said, raise up to your 2 hands. She raised up the 2 hands just because she wanted to buy the allocation paper. No route to market. It was just a Cosa Nostra, Don Corleone way of selling in those days. And the next phase came where organizations began to invest behind technology. More products were being available. Then the days of salesmen came in when people had to come in, you had the funds, and then you go to trade and you began to sell. And I think while in Diageo, along the line we joined in 2004 as sales executives. We had a sales director who came all the way from United Kingdom, one of the finest we had and one of the finest I've ever worked with. And then you look at the entire structure and say, no, this is not route to market. How do you take Rolls Royce to the farm to harvest corn? And we didn't understand what it was. And they said, you salesmen, in those days were disciplined salesmen. I don't know where the value has gone to these days. You would wear your white shirts, nice goblet tie, nice black pants, shiny shoes, not as shiny as this one that I'm wearing, by the way. And you drove a pickup. And with that disciplined way of dressing, you lifted crates and cartons and threw in the trucks. You had the efficiency measurement form, a very big form like this that you will carry as if you are doing sensors, and begin to go from one outlet to the other. You come to outlet A, this is what you sold. There were no data driving the businesses in those days. It was purely manual drive. I didn't even know how to use computer in those days, I'll confess. That era became successful to a reasonable extent until that gentleman came and said, no. The salesmen who drove pickup and put the crates in the vehicles and delivered physically to the outlets are Rolls-Royce individuals. We should buy trucks and get lesser qualified people to do the job you're doing today, and your role should be evaluated into what is known as retail development managers. As retail development managers, you go to the outlet, you develop the outlet, you soften the ground, and you get the lesser qualified people driving the trucks to come into the outlets and deliver the physical products to the outlet. Next phase, rethinking your arts here. That phase became extremely successful. London came, rolled out that, spent hundreds of millions of naira on that. And as if that was not enough, the business was growing over and over because of that singular change. And along the line, the Nigerian made a call for one of the biggest capex investment in the history of the Nigeria. A £284 million capex investment because demand was ahead of supply. And in the whole of Benin, expanding the plant in Benin, we almost bought a whole street. People were bringing their houses to say, come and buy my house and demolish for you to put your production line. And then we expanded production. Capacity came in, invested behind the supply chain arm of the business. We didn't invest behind commercial. So the route to market that took us thus far failed along the line. And hence the need for us to re-engineer again. And in 2010 or 11 or thereabout, they actually rolled out one of the biggest route to market projects globally. It was a global route to market project with 5 tier 1 markets involved: Nigeria, Ghana, Brazil, US. And a few of us were picked to run that project. Were taken to New York and shown around what the RTC looked like there. At the moment we finished the sessions, I called the moderator and said, if they stop right where they are today in the next 20 years, we can't catch up with these people. Because it was so advanced in terms of what they do, using software, using tech, exactly what Godson and team are doing today, what they were doing way back, that was 11 or 12 years ago. We went through that phase, came back to different markets, we reshaped the way we were going to market, and today, you look at the capacity that was oversubscribed in those days, is undersubscribed now because organizations continuously changed the way they were going to market. Now, we've seen organizations who've gone through these different evolutions. We've seen some who had chosen to stay where they were, and in most of the cases, they're gradually going extinct. And along the line, COVID came. And you looked at everything that came with COVID, it was clearly two sides of the coin. We got the shining part, by the way, because we were in the food. Everything that could be produced was sold. Capacity was at its limit. From the production line, a product produced this morning, you will find it in trade in 3 or 4 hours. It was a tailwind era. Again, rethinking your RTC. Most organizations come within that space, and they were extremely comfortable, they did nothing. As much as I could sold everything that I had there, and that era lasted for about 2 years. I had to walk down to the group managing director, and I told him I'm very worried. I'm talking about active state of anticipating changes ahead of time, staying ahead of the curve as far as your route to market is concerned. And he asked me what were my concerns, and I said, look, we're selling everything we could sell today. And I just simply suspect that along the line, this era is going to go away, and we're going to get into a space where we will struggle to sell products. And he said, what do you want? Took my route to market, dismantled it altogether again. And I went in the space of what if in the next 2 years, the tide began to change? How would I respond? And I went in search of what I needed to do. began to make procurements, spent close to about 3 to 4 billion naira behind rebuilding my RTC even when there was no need for one, in anticipation of the changes that are coming ahead. And indeed that change came. A year and a half down the line, everything went down. Organizations who were selling as much as I was selling when I was doing that began to struggle. But everything that I could still produce was still being sold. Because I took the chance, I took the risk, even when there was no need for one, to reinvest behind my RTC and begin to bring in some of the finest brains around in terms of people like Ejiro in here, one of the finest capability brains available in this nation, brought him in. People need to be developed. They need to understand when this period comes. How do we respond? The right mindset was being driven. All through those periods, COVID, we were having capability sessions. We were developing our people. We were preparing for a tomorrow that we didn't see coming. Any other person could have sat and said, you know what, we're fine where we are. We're not going to do anything about this, and we're fine. And then the next phase of the Rethinking RTC came again. That's the space I'm in now. Along the COVID era, we began to see the tech engine-led disco e-commerce platform, sophisticated guys showing up on the platform. And these are the guys who then tells you, you've got to do this with data, you've got to do this, then you deliver this way. And that era is a strong data-driven era that most organizations struggled to go with. And by the way, as it sits today, when they said think global and execute local, you don't understand Nigeria as it sits today. The route to market here won't be the same as what you have in the United Kingdom today. Whichever way it goes, we will still, over the next 10, 15 years, be 90% traditional driven and perhaps 10% sophistication and tech-led business. But that tomorrow that you don't see today, if you don't begin to invest in it in terms of reshaping the entirety of your route to market, then you'll be left behind. I've seen organizations close shop and said, look, it's tough for us to do business here. We live in this country, and they have left. And we've seen organizations within the space of all the challenges that we're having today still thriving. So the macroeconomic indices being tough and hostile across different parts of the world is not enough for any organization to exceed the nation, but enough for every organization to rethink the way you go to markets and reshape how you run your businesses and how you get the product to the final consumer. And I'll dive in a little bit in a couple of slides to actually break this up properly. I'll try to do that within the time allotted me, so I don't get kicked out of this place. And again, one of the things that I felt to watch hearing here in some of the exposures that I've had in the course of looking at your RTC, getting into a space where you are not, getting edgy and getting, competitively prepared for the tomorrow that you don't see. We were bundled together and asked to have a session with this great thing called the Mckinney Rogers. I'm actually thinking of bringing them just to shape the way I do business today, because the day you stop investing behind yourself, investing behind your business, thinking ahead of time, staying ahead of the curve, you can gradually die. Mckinney Rogers are a crop of and I'm sure a lot of people in the room has had contact with these guys, brilliant guys. They were ex-US SEAL team commandos, the finest that the SEAL team has ever had to offer. Some of them are ex-SAS. So these are men who are trained and has honed their skills in the art of warfare. They had exited the military and had formed an organization that has supported and guided most businesses through strategic thinking, either in terms of your route to market, in terms of anticipating changes, in terms of having plan A and B, plans. They have done brilliantly there. And one of the things that I learned from that session, which I felt very instructive and sharing this, like I said much earlier, I don't want to over-intellectualize this session. I'll just bring it to in a subtle way as could bring it and take it back home to Nigeria and talk through some of the things that we're seeing around. They taught us that in the military never went to a battle without having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plans. There is the vision, there is the mission. The mission is for us to take over the hall in which we do business today, where we are today. That is detailed. Who goes in first? Who goes next? Which infantry moves first? What are the armaments that are needed? How then do you move? What formation? Who is the captain of the team? It is laid out clearly. And there's always a plan B. That what if we approach the hall and there's a connecting bridge, and before we got there, the bridge was blown away? What then do we do? There's a plan B that then says the Navy then come with their speedboats and ferry us across into the river. The mission remains today. We still want to capture this hall. And then there's a plan C that says what in the process of you approaching the Navy taking you across with the speedboat, then you come under heavy fire, and the plan C becomes we get the Air Force to drop the hell missiles and put the payload on them and soften them for us to cross into those spaces. And then we did a lot of work, David. And some of these were the things that I felt today in rethinking your route to market. One plan is not enough. Standing here looking at the next 2, 3 plans that has to happen in terms of the horizon that I see today. We were discussing about the last 4, 5, 6 months, and I keep telling people I've never seen any group of people come into power in any nation and they say our number 1 manifesto is to make life difficult for our people. No. Our number 1 manifesto is to make sure that life becomes extremely unbearable for the poor. No. The people who come into power are influenced by certain events and occurrences beyond the shores of the nation in which they govern. When the first shot was fired between Ukraine and Russia, it was about 2 years ago, a year ago, we all felt safe in Lagos. They're not going to fire any missiles to come to Lagos. But the impact of that on the economy in which we operate, we forgot about. 40% of wheat consumed in the world, 45% comes from that place. The 45% of the wheat consumed in the world is what we needed in making bread, biscuits, noodles. The easiest crisis that can happen in this nation is when the question of wheat stops. There will be nothing to eat. We didn't see the implication of that. But then we saw the price of wheat, spiraling upwards across different parts of the world, to the point where, in some cases, it tripled. Then the safe corridor was created for ship to pass, for wheat and grains to be moved. The price became a bit stable. That's how tough this would be. So you have someone in government, and then you say the macros have gone south, things have gone very bad. We're not weighing the implication of some of these things that has happened. So clearly, in ensuring the organization stay afloat within top business environment, is the need for people to think through, and the commercial leaders and businesses to think through, what are the roles of data in the things that we do? How do we prepare for a tomorrow that we haven't seen? What are the key challenges that would likely come our way? Then I look at this. I look at your route to market. Nigeria is like no other nation. And we've had, while I was in the Edo, we've had several. It's a market that humbles everyone. We've had several blue-eyed, great talents across different parts of the world, seconded to Nigeria. And these are guys who've done great, they've done great exploits at the global level. But this nation humbles them. In some cases, they go flat on their faces. It's because you try to treat this nation as an entity without digging into each of the regions and understand the peculiarity of each of the regions. Today, most of the route to consumer that we have, I've had the privileges of speaking with some very high-profile commercial leaders, some managing directors of organizations, And each time they pitch their challenges before me, then I ask a few questions in terms of how you go to market, how you do it. And he just found out that it's a one-size-fits-all that they've executed most of the time. They've never had a rethink of how they go to market. Now I further probe and ask questions sometimes. Now I was with one very high-profile MD, maybe you said top 5 within this nation, and we're having a chat. And we're talking about the route to market. And I said, how have you fared, in terms of the way you go to market? I said, no, we've got regions, we have people in the regions, we've got. And I asked, is it enough to have people in the region, domiciled in the region? What do they do in the region? They said, how do you go to market in each of them? Oh, yeah, madam, we go everywhere, we go everywhere. I said, no. I said, what's your cost to serve across each of the regions you operate? In which of the channels do you play? What's your cost to income ratio? What percentage of your gross margin does your cost of the distribution, carry? Do you have a P&L for each of the channels and segments that you cover today? And the responses were, I never thought it that way. But that is the good of people leading this nation today in terms of our commercial skills. It's worrisome. And that's why I'm thanking Gordon and team for what they are creating. When Noah was building the ark, everyone laughed at him. All the doubting Thomases were there. And some said you were just wasting your time, bloody carpenter. But when the storm came, it's only those of us who listened to Noah that entered the ark. I don't know how many people are in this hall who listened to Noah in those days. I'm not too sure if any listened to him, by the way. But he followed me into the ark. The likes of Alezo, the likes of, Panacea, the likes of Omnibus, the likes of Trade Depot, are creating something that we're not paying attention to today. Ability to drive what we're doing with sophisticated data. And I understand the next level of it is now using artificial intelligence. One thing that I'm sure of is that artificial intelligence will not take my job away. Because you see this meant to say, robots will not go and talk to people and convince them. And they want to prove it, let them take robot to my distributor in Lagos to talk to him if he will not slap the hell out of the robot and refuse to buy. That's on a light note, by the way. So I dig deep into this. And I looked at what we have in here. You've got the southwestern part of the country. Detach Lagos from the southwestern part of the country, that's a separate entity on its own. 5th largest economy in Africa. You deployed or you're taking your route to market, and you chose to go with the one-size-fits-all here. You know what? Dead on arrival. You would appear to be alive in what you are doing, but the real truth is, over time, the business will die. A natural death. The northern part of the country is with 19 states, densely populated, lean and very lean disposable income, liquidity a key challenge, working capital, perhaps challenge along certain lines, but you've got 19 states in the north. If you don't have a route to market that sufficiently defines how you win in each of the 19 states, then you got nothing. I tore the southwestern part of Nigeria apart because I've had the privilege of working everywhere in Nigeria. From starting my career in Aba to Benin, to coming to Ibadan as a sales rep, then being moved to Akure as an area sales manager, then being moved to the north, covering 14 states of the north as divisional sales manager, being moved back to Lagos to cover to the west to cover the entirety of the southwestern Nigeria, and then being moved back to the biggest market, which is Lagos, covering Lagos with good result across those places. So I could write a book about the regional routes to markets and the sophistication of each of these markets. Now I've got about 4 great talents that have worked with me along those lines in this room today who's gone further deep into the world to become big leaders, done great exploits even at directorate level, at my level today. Those are the joys that we have, that we're grooming people who are doing this stuff. You take the north apart, what gives in Abuja is not what gives in Gombe. What gives in Gombe is not what gives in Maiduguri. If you don't have a route to market, a coverage and contact strategy that clearly defines how you go to market within each of these places, the opportunities are always there, begging at all times. I walk the streets of Nigeria and at all times, I'm making calls to people, even up until last night, and saying, I see opportunities that are not being harvested. For sure, is one of my top talent area sales managers with me in this hall. On Saturday, I called him, I was going to church. I was trained that way, I was wired that way. At every point that I set my eyes, I look for opportunities. The challenges unfold. And I said, the stretch that leads to my church, I can find BFC there, I can find Choco there, I can find X there, I can find Y there. The same discipline of the military, 24 hours, if I drive out and I don't see them again, we'll have a different conversation. Less than 4 hours, everything was doing. That's an opportunity that I closed. If you don't have the right route to market to access those opportunities, they would be there begging, and there is nothing you will do about it. Check the southwestern part of Nigeria in its entirety. If I'm deploying resources in the north, I'm not deploying the same kind of resources that I'm deploying in the southwest. The southwest is sophisticated, highly educated, economy in most cases agrarian and civil service driven. But the shocking part about the insight and the dynamics that come from the southwestern part of Nigeria is the fact that you've got heavy density of high institutions that are domiciled within those locations. The high institutions that are domiciled within those locations has a cross-section of people from different parts of the country, from Lagos, from the east, high, rich, and affluent children of people in the A, B, socioeconomic strata. They move into those environments and they go with their consumption behavior that they have in the extremely sophisticated urban setting that they're coming from. So you would naturally say, oh yes, in the southwestern part of the country, because the economy is purely civil service and agrarian driven, people won't have money to buy certain things. But in the real sense, those who came with their purchase behavior and pattern won't trade it for anything less. If the products are not available, opportunities are crossed along those lines. And in the same southwestern part of Nigeria, you understand which are the channels that I invest behind. Rethinking your route to market strategy. Which are the channels in the next 1 year that I'll invest behind? Which are the channels in the next 2-3 years that I'll invest behind? Which are the channels in the next 4-5 years that are the shining light in the horizon that I'll begin to make investment behind? If you don't have those plans, which are the channels in the next 1 year that I'll invest behind? Which are the channels in the where this great team comes in is the ability to make this journey seamless and easy for us in terms of data provision, in terms of intelligence, in terms of insight, in terms of within the southwestern part of Nigeria. If I want to win in Ibadan, I need to understand how many outlets are there within Ibadan. Where are they? How are they geotagged? What is the job size per outlet? What's their location? How much will it cost me to cover each of those outlets? And how then do I deliver results along those lines? And what kind of infrastructures and resources do I deploy to cover those outlets? I picked the sample of Ile-Ife 3 years ago, and in developing my regional strategy, and I asked the question, are we really present in Ile-Ife? Oh, yeah, we're present in Ile-Ife. Another attribute of commercial leader this day. I picked the sample of stay in the trench with the team, and in developing my regional strategy. And I asked the question, I don't know if it was Drotoye or Ejiro that said it, but they said, you cannot give what you don't have. Some of us are not tied to daring commercial leaders. We built it from scratch. So I drove down to Ile-Ife, and I found 1, 2, 3 SKUs literally in the place. I run a business today with almost 120 SKUs. How do you string that together and still being able to command results with them? So the discipline of the route to market that you have. And I went to Ile-Ife and I said, yeah, the few products are available. And I checked the statistics, the power of data again. What are we doing over the last 6 months in this town? I pulled those data and analyzed them and said, I want to grow this by about 300%. And the guys said, how that could possible now? And I thought I was holding a very bad week that day. The power of data again. I didn't see anything. I said, okay, this is exactly how we do it. Put this here, put this here, put this here, do this. I didn't deploy a sales rep to Ilefe. I deployed a top tier sales force to Ilefe to begin to build distribution for my product around. The same trade today does about 400% of what was saying and still growing by the power of rethinking your RTC. Taking it down to the regions, understanding where the opportunities are, using the power of insight and data, deploying resources against the insight and data that you gather, and executing and measuring those results and insight that you have. And of course, unlocking the potentials of the people to the right capable. Understanding where the opportunities are, using the power of insight and the final note, deploying resources against the insight and data that you gather, and executing and measuring. I'll give a humorous example without any offense here. The battle will be won, and the final note will be lost in the 1.2 million outlet that we have here today. As the economy gets pressured, as the macros go south, the battle will be won. As working capital becomes challenged, as people don't have liquidity, the 1.2 million base outlet that we have today will keep increasing. And why will it keep increasing? People lose their jobs, and then they say, what are you doing again? I'm going to teach you to protect your living. That's part of this 1.2 million. As people don't have liquidity, the entry barrier is so low. You could rent a small shop and then buy a bag of rice and begin to dispense. People will say, do you have noodles? Do you have golden penny noodles? Nothing to me. Do you have golden penny noodles? They say, yes, got golden penny noodles. Then they say, do you have the chicken one? Do you have the jollof hot sauce one? Do you have the jollof one? Do you have the goat meat pepper soup one? I said, I don't have goat meat pepper soup, I have only jollof. And they said, okay, I want jollof. Then it goes back and then it brings jollof. You build distribution along those lines. Those were opportunities that were not existing before. 1.2 million outlets today, I keep telling people, no organization would see it except Coca-Cola and lay claim to the fact that they can cover 30% of the universe. The cost to serve it being direct distribution is enormous. 1.2 million outlets today. And here comes the power of technology. Sunil is here, so working with me, joined us about a few months ago in building the next level of our tech-led RTC business. In this 1.2 million outlets, you would find varieties of, and here comes the power of technology, within channels, within segments. So working with me, joined us about 3 months. There is no, from the channel downwards, what we call secondary. There will be no secondary without primary. And in most cases, people talk about RTC and dwell with the primary without paying attention to this, to the secondary without paying attention to the primary. The primary is about the distributor model. It's the first leg of the route to market. If I don't have someone within Ilefe to dispense the products into the outlets that are tiered down here, and I'm not talking about route to market. I'm just talking about hypothesis and theory. When I landed in Uganda, a very humorous note, I think on that note I'm closer to show you what Uganda is on this call, watching via Zoom. And I landed on the soil of Uganda 2014 as in sales director. If you were going to such markets in Nigeria here, there will be Moku at the airport, there will be escorts, there will be a Prado to pick you up, and you were treated with all the dignity and the respect of your office. So I flew all the way and expected that I would be because I'm going to such markets. Landed at Entebbe International Airport at 2 a.m. in the morning. There was not a flight to pick me up. And you were treated with all the dignity. And that day I knew my job was not out. Every line that I called, no one picked. Glorious sales director, dear sales director. London is about the fact that I'm flying over global mobility is a country that I knew no one at 2 a.m. That's how I had 2 bottles of Bell beer, the flagship brand, while working my strategy. I'm not new here, by the way, I'm not new. But there's an hotel somewhere on the road. You get me a cab there, you will trust that. So they got me one. They took me to the hotel. And the following morning, I got to the office, was London was asking, so make sure I sat at the hotel, ate breakfast, slept very well. I let them sweat before I showed up here. Eventually, when I showed up, I asked the question, why has the business been down for the last 3 years? Now I'm talking about rethinking your roots market. I said, we don't even understand. They've had 3 blue-eyed Diageo commercial director seated on that road and had struggled through it. The last was the one that I met on ground. Nice, wonderful South African, struggling with the road. And I checked the key and said, give me some data. And again, I go back to what was here yesterday before I came in here. The power of data. Ability to generate the cycle of data. Historical data, you know. There were no structured historical data. I went to dig up some in less than 48 hours and give me how you are feared across the region, dealer by dealer. And I found one thing. But each time you raise a dealer, they gather your money, do good business, and run away. And then the territory becomes vacant, and you can't feel secondary. So down here, market share was being lost. Equity was being eroded. There was no TOMA, by the way. It's only when the products started good at you can talk about it. And there was so much air cover being given by marketing. Marketing was just spending money. You're spending money when the product is not available in the right channel. That sounds like some crime punishable by whatever it is you called it. So I asked the guys, how have you manage that? They talked about the first line of response to the route market. And they said, we just don't know how to do it. So I picked the regional manager for Kampala. I picked the guy from logistics, picked the guy from finance, picked an area sales manager. I went to the business that has gone down. Dealer has closed shop. We camped in there, did a proposal. I moved products into those outlets, and I said, if we cannot prove to the dealers, whoever wants to buy this data, we can run it profitably, then we have no legislation about the distribution. So we can't be there. We were the managers of the business. I shipped the product myself. I got these guys, and I made sure most of them are still 5-7 years in the business. So if you run away with the money, I'll take it. I can hold on. So I made sure there were guys who stayed long in the business, and we began to run that business. We got funds, and in 3 months we did a P&L for that period to say, if you take this axis of Kampala, you've got 25,000 outlets in there. You need about 7 months to run the routes. This is exactly your cost to start. This is the P&L of each of the van. This is the P&L of the territory. Cost of capital is factored in. This is exactly how this territory runs. And I went to the media, ran an advert and said, I've got territory to sell if you've got money. Working capital is a set amount of money. This is the return on investment. This is what you need. This is what you need to invest. And I have application flooding my table. And I began to sell territories. So I got the territory to the P&L, sold it. Same business, I was around 34% market share. Mark was telling me like 2 months ago, Mark is the marketing and innovation director for Guinness Nigerian PLC. We work together in Uganda. That's 4% market share, being booked left, right, and center by South African PLC, about 65% market share as it sits now. Understanding your RTC and doing the right thing to reposition your products. So across all the channels, you can only do this much by covering directly. There are about 1 million outlets that the wholesale unit will cover for you. And the wholesale unit, by virtue of proximity to people, by virtue of relationship with people, by virtue of neighborhood affiliation with people, they could easily extend credit lines to outlet who says, then the outlet picks it in the morning and then sells it, and then it brings back money in the evening, and then you keep the entire system running that way. And these are key things that I felt within the economic situation we found ourselves today. We have to be extremely choiceful about how we re-engineer our route to market using data, building historic data, getting into the space where you could measure exactly what counts. And again, if you look at this, there are outlets and there are businesses that chose to operate within only one channel. They don't have issues. You don't take a blue label to sell in a neighborhood store. It's not going to sell. You then don't take a sachet Chelsea to a Cubana and say, this is the way my route market has worked, this is how I position this, but it's not going to sell. So there's a sound understanding, there's a handshake between marketing, trade marketing, and sales that transcends route to market into route to consumer, understanding your consumers. Where do they buy these products? What is their buying behavior? What influences their choice of pickup at the point where they make their buying decision? And that's where the handshake comes in. On the final note, in the last 3 or 4 months, that we've seen things shifting and changing. I could, when I joined Flower Mills, I could, and it would take me an average of 2.5 hours to get to work in the morning. And then my hair that used to be very high before began to show signs of thinness, and baldness was coming. I was very worried. The stress was too much. So I could drive from my house to Apapa in less than 20 minutes now. And I'm sure most people, where there are no terrible potholes, the roads are extremely free these days. What has driven that? Not too many people on the road anymore. Within that space, double check your route for consumer. The people who used to be on the road, who made purchases at all time, open market footfall began to thin out in the last, I'm talking about last 3 or 4 months. The open markets you go to, that shoulder to shoulder, you'll be shopping in Mushi market. When I give my wife money to go and make purchases, my wife don't shop at Adebano. Buy meat at Adebano. How? When there's no Verno there? When you can go to Mushi market? How? Who does that? The only people like Kenny have his wife shopping at those kind of places. Me, my wife don't shop here. She goes to she will have you and then collect money and then keep the change with her. Then you go to the same set of markets these days and you can walk freely. And I picked the statistics and ran some numbers across different parts of the country, and I saw a different trend shift. People want services now. They want products brought to their doorsteps. If it was costing me 100 naira to take a Marwa and go from my house to Mushi market and buy 4 cartons of pasta and then come back home, and it's costing me 400 naira to do that one trip, another 400 naira back, that's 4x what it cost me to get product from the market. I would rather sit down at home and pray that there's a technological solution that put that product at my doorstep. Services, data usage, deployment of sophisticated infrastructure for people to sit down at home and press a few buttons on their phone and say, you know what, I want X, Y, Z, and it's brought to their doorstep. That's where Panacea, their measures, the technology, they're taking also. It might be just 1-2% of the market today. That trend will keep shifting. And when that trend shifts, you preserve your normal route to market, which is a hot sales, as it were today, and begin to invest behind this new trend that we are seeing. And I think in rethinking our route to market, these few nuggets that will have done justice to some of the thinking processes that we have. Like I said much earlier, there's a limit to what I can do in 30 minutes. I could stay on this slide for one day and begin to digest and dissect each of these slides, but within the allocated time, the great day we're having today, I would at this point, for those of us who used to write love letters in the 70s and 80s, I would at this point drop my golden pen and say doxology. Thank you very much.